Hi, Chris. Brilliant. All right. Would- uh, Let me just share the link on the other mm, aborted one. All right. Welcome, guys. Sorry about that. We'll just let folks gather from the other live stream. It's like your worst corporate Microsoft Teams nightmare. I really don't know what happened there. I couldn't find the go live button on the scheduled one, but never mind. Can you hear me okay as well? Someone just let me know if you can hear the sound. Jolly good. Thanks, Andrew. Good evening. I hope everyone's well. Right then. Let's get this party started. Yes, it is my first live stream, clearly. I was just a bit bamboozled on the schedule one. There was no obvious way to start the damn thing. There was no go live button that I could find. So Renko suggested to just start one live, and that was obvious when I did that. So I'm going to have to research that so it's a bit less of a nightmare, less time. If I do another one, we'll see. Yeah, I can't help you with the echo and the audio. Um, Let me just see if I can just tell it which mic to use. It should be just defaulting to the mic that I've got. Yeah, the sound is whatever it is, I'm afraid. How about now? Is that any better? Okay. It might have just been that I had the onboard mic muted on the laptop, or it could just be because my laptop is shit. We'll see. I don't know what everyone else has been up to today. I actually finished a book today. I finished the Philip Jose Farmer Day World book and got a bit of gardening done. And I've just been out for dinner with my daughter since it was just the two of us at home. So that's been my day. Nothing very exciting. Right, should we get this then started then? Since there's a few of you on, who's got a question? No, I'm not running the marathon. My oldest son's got a friend that's in it, so he's been in London. But no, I don't get out of bed for 26 miles. It's just rookie numbers. First science fiction book that I ever read, thanks, Maurice. Well, I think there were probably a couple of Jules Verne books when I was like a real nipper, like Journey to the Centre of the Earth, which I'm sure were looking. The But actually, I think the first we could say the first official science fiction books that I read were in this book, which I was given, or one very like it actually, for my like 10th or 11th birthday, and that has 4 books in it. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Man by Alfred Bester, I, Robot by Isaac Asimov, and yes, The Day of the Truth by John Wyndham. And so those were the first 4 that I really remember reading, and so those are what I think of as my first SF books. So that's a pretty good introduction. And so I read them, I think, pretty much in the order that they came in, and then moved on to things like Dune and Asimov short stories and what have you. Do I know whether Adrian Tchaikovsky is planning to attend World Cup? Fuck what I know. I don't know if Adrian Tchaikovsky is planning to attend anything. You have to ask. Have I ever visited a book signing? No. I haven't visited a book signing. I should. Um, Hello, Mick. Hello, Andre, and Jack, and Andre, uh, and Wookie, of course. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Um, all right then. What else you got? What's my motivation? Well, there's an argument my kids would tell you. It's the latest obsession that I've acquired. There's been a series of them um, uh, over the years, I suppose. For a while, I was obsessed with gardening, and then I got obsessed with running, which I'm still moderately obsessed with. And so this is just the latest in the long line of them, really. I don't know. The list helpful because they're just a way of kind of organising my thinking and giving me some direction rather than it being sort of completely random collecting of things or buying things. And there was certainly an element of randomness in the first year. Um, so I don't know that I like books, is the real motivation, and I have a renewed interest clearly in science fiction, which was sort of and it wasn't exactly dormant, but had fallen down my priority list for a couple of decades. I'd still read a bit, but nothing like as much as I have been obviously for this channel. So let's see, would I consider doing Hamilton Tier? Um, I've read most of what he's done. I haven't read his latest one, Exodus, and there's a couple of his the very early ones, Fallen Dragon, particularly, I haven't read, and a couple of his short story collections I haven't read. So yes, I ought to do one. The trouble is, I haven't read a lot of these. I feel obliged to do some kind of reread, and as you say, they are all pretty intimidating. If you haven't read any of them yet, then I would start with the Commonwealth Saga, which is Pandora's Star and Judas Unchained, and then go to the Night's Dawn trilogy. They're all excellent, if you like a good space opera. Who's my favourite author evs? That's a difficult one. I don't know that I can actually answer that. I can give that a bit of thought. I'll come back to. Am I tempted to set up a channel Discord? Yes, is the short answer. I've procrastinated about it. I did talk with Whitney over at Secret Source Historical a couple of times about potentially just making hers a joint channel between the two of us, but we never pulled the trigger on that. And I think probably to have a Discord for my channel, then I would probably want it to be a separate one just for me. So yes, I might well do. Um, do I sometimes buy the edition of which you prefer the cover? Quite sometimes, yes. I mean, there's certainly if I'm out and about. Uh, Actually, do I? I suppose I'll probably default these days to find the first edition, and I suppose if there's a top between the US first edition and the UK first edition, then I might buy the one that's got more interesting covers. Preferred the UK edition of Blood Music to the US edition. It's much nicer. Sorry, Mark, I don't know what to do about the audio. It's probably my broadband connection, honestly, struggling a little bit with doing a direct output from up here in my upstairs office. Why is Discord evil? Maybe it is, I don't know. It's not the mic, it'll be my internet connection, sure. Am I using Goodreads? Yes and no. I don't do anything on Goodreads. Um, is that any better? Let me know if that's any better on the sound. Okay. All right. I think I might have pressed something on the mic that didn't help. I wonder why Discord is evil. I don't know. So do I use Goodreads? I um, do use Goodreads for research purposes. I do have an account, and I started to use evening Christian. I started to use Goodreads to track my library, but I found the user interface just appalling, and I couldn't cope with it. Uh, uh, so I I was distracted there by a message from Dark Commission. Yeah, I am. So I do use it actively. I use it for research. So if I want to see what people thought of a book, then I use it, but I don't contribute directly in that way, I suppose. Am I as sick as he as Dark Commission is for receiving books from World of Books that cost me £4.50 and they come with a 10p charity? Well, that's where World of Books get their stock. Is from charity shops that can't be bothered to sell. Where charity shops have overstocked, or it's books that they're not going to sell, then they pass them on for um, to World of Books, and then they sell them on. That's their business model. I guess the advantage is for Audiobooks, you're paying for having access to the stock from many charity shops and not relying on your local 2 or 3. I I went through a stage of using World of Books quite regularly, but I use them less. Do I read any genres out of sci so no, I because of focusing on this channel, I read almost exclusively science fiction. I sometimes stray, dabble in fantasy, but very rarely. I don't object to fantasy. I've read a fair bit of fantasy in my time, but because the focus of the channel is science fiction, that's where I stay. Outside of both, then I like a good thriller. I like a bit of historical fiction. I certainly read a lot of Forsyth and Tom Clancy and Jack Higgins and Alistair MacLean and Len Deighton, all of those guys. John le Carré, but I haven't read any of them for quite a while. Are there any authors whose work I haven't enjoyed but are willing to try again? Well, J.G. Ballard is a case in point there, I think. I first read Crash and hated it, and then I was put off reading anything by him for a few years. But I have dipped my toe in. I've read The Crystal World and High Rise, which I thought were okay. Um, certainly, here we are on talking terms again, I suppose. Um, am I a fan of Arthur C. Clarke's short stories? I don't know. I'm not sure that I've read any, is a short answer. So I don't know. I'm not a huge reader of short stories. In fact, I would say 98% of my reading is novels or novellas. I really don't read short stories nearly as much as I ought to. Yeah, Alistair MacLean was my dad's kid, and he had Alistair MacLean shorts, books on his shelf that I read through, and I did love them at the time. Does my missus like science fiction as well? That actually is yes. Uh, she's not as obsessed with it as I am, and she probably likes. She likes. She's read a couple of Greg Egan books. She's read uh, um, what do you call it? Roadside Picnic. She's read a lot of Margaret Atwood, some of which I suppose you could call science fiction. So yeah, she doesn't object to it. She doesn't read anywhere near as much as I do, certainly. Yeah, I'm a naughty science fiction fan. I don't short stories. I've got like a big in my collection. You can see them, unless I tip this right up, but on top of the shelves there, can you see them? Probably not. Yeah, on the stack there, the right side of the screen, it's an enormous pile of the sort of mammoth books of short stories, and I've got a whole shelf full of anthologies, and a bunch of collections scattered amongst the rest of my collection, which I just haven't read. Evening, Ian. Why do people say consider Phoebus? Lots of people say skip it because it's not the best one, basically. It was the first one out of the door. It wasn't the first one he wrote actually, but it was the first one that got published. He'd had earlier drafts of a couple of his subsequent books that he revised substantially, I gather. Um, I like it. I mean, it's not my favourite, but I think with Ian M. Banks, it's degrees of great. I think they're all great. It's just some are more great than others. Oh, Leon, what on earth are you doing in this live stream? leave immediately and go and read Dune. That's what I've got to say. Longest serving book on my shelf, which I haven't got round to. That's a very good question. I don't know. Well, the answer to that is I've got about probably about 1,200 books on my shelves I haven't read. So I don't know, which of it is the longest serving, if that makes sense. Well, I refer you to my ranking video on the culture, which in which I explain which one you should read. My favorite is Inversions. Um, what's Look to Windward I like as well, and Matter I appreciated. And, yeah, Use of Weapons is pretty good. That's got a severe twist. Actually, it would be 2 in it, but they're all good, I think. Pick one. The Algebraist is very good. It's not a culture novel, but it was The Algebraist was on my top 10 list of favorite science fiction books that I did quite early in the life of the channel. I really need to, revisit that top 10 because it would change. Where have I travelled outside of the UK? Well, mainly with work, so it's really boring. I've been to the US a bunch, to Texas and to Connecticut. I've worked for a couple of different companies that have had offices there. I've been to, France, Germany, Holland, Denmark, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, Morocco, India, Austria, probably Ireland a bunch, not with this company, but with my last one. So, yeah, but mostly with work, where you really see the inside of your hotel, inside of the cab, and inside of the office, and that's really it. Um, but and at the time I was doing that travelling and post-COVID, I really not done very much at all with work. It wouldn't have occurred to me to go find a bookshop, to go have a browse, but I would definitely do that now if I was travelling. Yeah, the Isle of Wight's far enough. I mean, you've got to get on the boat and everything. And it really surprises me how long the boat takes to get from Southampton to the Isle of Wight or wherever it is. So, let's see, what is your work and do your colleagues know about your moonlighting activities? My job title is program director. I'm basically a reasonably senior in IT management in a FTSE 50 company, and my responsibility is making sure that the delivery projects that we have happen broadly when we expect them to, and broadly for the outcome that we expected it to cost, and delivering the business change that results. That's kind of what I do. My day job, I've been doing it for a long time. I know how to do it well. Um, Morris, audiobooks. Um, I haven't recorded that video yet, I think. Thanks, Tank. Bye. Have I tried my hand at writing? Well, I won an essay competition which had a science fiction bent. It letter writing competition. For some reason, I decided I would write a letter about time travel, if I remember rightly. And there was probably some sort of nuclear war paranoia because it was the 80s. And that won. So I won. And I won. I also wrote a poem which which got featured in a book. It sounds more exciting than it was, which was published in a local authority book produced for schools locally when I was a kid. So no, really no, I haven't. I strongly doubt that I ever will. Do, so Seth says, do you think a science fiction writer can actually write a novel that predicts the future quite accurately, near or even far? And what sort of visions do you think are closest? But I kind of often think that we're living in a science fiction movie quite a lot. Go back far enough, the fact that we've all got communication devices in our hands that have access to the sum total, arguably, of human knowledge, um, on the planet. I mean, that amazes me. Well, I was trying to tell my kids once, uh, what it was like going on a car journey when I was their age, when you didn't know where the hell you were going. Road atlas, or you stopped and asked for directions. The fact that you could see a moving map with the top of your car on it, know exactly where you are, would have seemed like science fiction back in the day. Um, but I don't know. I mean, we really have, the whole cyberpunk thing. We're not really plugged in, are we, Saz? We haven't got spaceships. We haven't even got jetpacks, for goodness sake. So I don't know. Now some of the dystopias that appear in science fiction appear quite realistic at the moment. Thanks, Renko. Um, Evening, Robin. Ahoy there. Permission to board. Um, Kev, good evening from, have I read any translated Japanese So no. So I haven't. I've never got into, interested, or even attempted to buy manga or anime or any of that stuff, which, just strikes me as a bit kiddie. I'm not, that's probably completely unfair, you know. Um, yes, I do have an on-air light. See, my daughter bought me that for my oldest daughter bought me that for my birthday. I think this is actually the first time that it's been seen. I've recorded a video, which won't come out until next week, I think, that uses it, but this is the first time. Characters sending each other memes telepathically in the demolished man. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I've got a copy of Never Let Me Go somewhere. So I've probably been, horrendously dismissive about, Japanese science fiction, but the answer's no, I haven't. Yeah, thanks, Mike. I don't know, how to solve that whilst I'm sitting here trying to do a live stream. I think probably it's to do with my wireless connection up here in my upstairs office. If it's gonna be really bad, I might move downstairs closer to the router. Any plans for any more? No, not really, is the short answer. I did do one recently with, okay. Uh, right, look, I'm gonna move downstairs if the sound's that shit, and, but you're obviously gonna the lighting's gonna be crap, and, um, background won't be interesting, but so be it. Just give me 2 minutes to get downstairs. Right, how's the sound now? Is that any better? Have I ever read any Tanith Lee? I haven't actually. I think I only own one. um, Tanner Lee book, and I haven't read it. But why is British SF so much better than American SF? Well, that's fighting talk, surely. I did have it in mind to do a US versus UK um, kind of face-off series of videos. I might still do that one day. And what does the family make of all you? So my family often joke about all the serial killers that I keep meeting. When I see people in real life that I know from YouTube, whether that's fellow YouTubers or people that watch the channel, and there's not been that many of them, um, but the kids are like, "What if they're a serial killer?" And I'm like, "That's just a risk I'm gonna have to take." So they don't really think much about the people. Honestly, it's more an eye rolling thing for me, and spending the time on it and being a nerd as far as certainly the kids are concerned. I don't know what chat pants are. Um, so I don't and have never bought or read a science fiction magazine. How about that? What an admission. If I could, I would love to. So, Chris, a good question. If I could interview any author, living or dead, who would you choose? I would probably choose Iain M. Banks. Really, I think I've read his work for 20, 30 years, and it's such a shame that he popped his clogs, uh, in such an untimely fashion 10, 11 years ago. Hi, Ian. Welcome. Uh, Dexter, is that your real name? It's been unmasked. All right then. Good. Well, that's good to know. Is it really? Is it really Dexter though? You just joshing us. What was my first significant sci-fi book? So we had this question before. I got a set of 4 of 2001, Day of the Triffids, I, Robot, and what was the other one? The Demolished Man. So it's those 4 really. And what was my yeah, so Phoebus is really good. Yeah. I'm wearing jeans, not sweatpants. Um, Getting recognised out in the wild would be a highlight for me. So that's happened twice. But I think in quite specific circumstances. So one was at a, a a paperback book fair, most of which was science fiction, and there were 2 or 3 other YouTubers there. Steve was there from Outlaw Bookseller, Kenny RH was there, and Jules Burt was there. He was helping on a stall, the famous Dorset Bob was there. And then there were 3 or 4 individuals that watched the channel, that came and said hello. So that was, what was that? November, not last year, year before, maybe, I think, or maybe it was this time last year, I can't remember. Um, and then I bumped into Mark in Bedford in, an Oxford bookshop, a few weeks ago. But that's kind of it. It's never really happened. There's nobody in Tufty. My daughter's upstairs in a bedroom, everyone else is out. My wife's away for the weekend. My, second child is at university, and the boys are out. One's at work and one's in London. Dorset Bob's place is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's just a garage. It's like a double garage, but it's jam-packed full of, shelving units stuffed with really great quality books. I'm actually planning a repeat visit, in a month or two's time. Demolished Man, I so of the 2 big Alfred Bester books, Demolished Man and, Lose My Flip, Stars My Destination. I actually preferred I've reread both of them, in the last year or so, and I preferred, the Demolished Man, actually. Malazan, Ian, yes, I've been tempted in that I do like a bit of fantasy, and I gather that's a pretty good one. But I, um, I just don't have with the focus bit on science fiction, I don't have the time. Wiki's asking, "Have I sampled any of the self-published work you've been sent?" So I've only been sent, like, physically a couple of things, and then I've had links for audiobooks and stuff for a few others. Um, And, at the risk of what have I so I have read, um, um, because, the author sent me some links, and she was giving them away on, not Twitter, the other one, Blue Sky, Nick Scrimger, and, I read her Wait, Wayfarer? I can't no, no, that's the other one. I forget what the Those Left Behind is the first one, which I really enjoyed. That was pretty good. I've got a couple of self-published books on the shelves that people have sent me, which I haven't yet read. Um, so, so Less Than I Ought to. How did I initially connect with Secret Source's Storycraft? Well, just from watching each other's channels, and then, she's got a Discord channel, and so we chat on the DMs there, and, she's actually been book shopping for me today in the US. She's coming over in a couple of months' time, hopefully, and, uh, uh, we'll do a book exchange of some kind. I have so Larry Niven, yes. I think the last time I did my top 10, which was 18 months ago or so, I think I had Legacy of Hero or Heorot as the number 1, I think, because I loved it so much. I read my copy of it to death, and I've subsequently replaced it with a hardback. But, Waystations, thank you, Safie. Yeah, not Wayfarer, Waystations. Yeah, which I really enjoyed. Um, I have read the first one. I think I've read the second one, which is called, Dragons of Heorot, I think. But I think the rest of them, which is okay, I think the rest of them I've heard are not great. I think there might even be a fourth. There's definitely a third. I haven't read it. She is the infamous book mule. Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, I'm in my wife's office now, which doubles as an occasional spare room, and there were a lot of books in here, before, all hers. But, we had a Ukrainian refugee staying with us for a while, and, she had this as a bedroom. We've never got around to putting the books back, actually. So your Simac question mark, Christian, I'm not really sure what you're asking me there. Oh, no, not Waystation. The Yes, Clifford Simac is the author of, Waystation. But no, Tufty's referring to the Scrimger books, it's the Waystation trilogy. I haven't read Protector. Somebody sent me, I forget who it was now, a copy of, Protector recently, which I've never read. Never read any Simac. Well, I can't, cast aspersions because I've only read 2. I've read, Ring Around the Sun or Ring Around the World. Ring Around the Sun, I think it is, and, something else as well. What the hell was it? Can't remember what the other one was. Um, I've got a bunch though, so I really need to read Way Stations, and I need to read City as well, yeah. The Nivens that I've got that I really want to read are, The Integral Tree and The Smoke Ring. I forget which is the first one of the 2. Um, those are and Protector would be the other one. I've The others that I've read are collabs, I think, with, Jerry Pournelle, The Light of Footfall, and, the other one, Lucifer's Hammer, which are lots of fun. Trees and Smoke Ring and meh. Okay, well, good. Any SF subgenres you want to explore more? Well, I suppose where I'm underread, is in the, uh, too cool for school, new wave type stuff from the '60s, and I haven't read it 'cause much of it because I strongly suspect I'm not gonna like it. I just don't think it's gonna float my boat, largely, but so that's an area where I feel like I ought to educate myself more, but, I haven't. I haven't read a great deal of cyberpunk. I've read Neuromancer and, Snow Crash, but not many other. Oh, and I tried to read Sinners by Pat Cadigan and gave up halfway through, which is a shame. John Meaney. I don't even know who that is. What's John Meaney written? Professor Bumblebear. So yeah, you need to tell me who John Meany is. I've never heard of him. My 2 favourite end of the world books is probably gonna be, Chrysalids, oh gosh, there's a lot. The ones that I've enjoyed recently are, what are they called? The Aftermath books, co-written by Dave Hutchinson and, Adam Roberts. There's 3 of them so far, there should be a 4th one coming out. Um, I'm gonna have to go look up John Meany now. Feel like I'm missing out. Christian asked, "Do I have any narrative preference between first or third person or past or present tense?" Blimey, that's a technical question. I don't know, like, I'm not sure I'm ever aware of it, to be honest. It just kinda goes over my head. Well, like, I like space opera, so, to answer your question, Kathy, and, any particular tropes or themes that are double A plus for me. So space opera generally, I like, uh, you know, unashamedly, I enjoy space, adventures really. Um, so there's been a few books there listed by John Meany that I've never heard of, so I'm gonna have to go look those up. Earth Abides I've read and did enjoy. I thought it was very poignant at the end, and that's Babylon I'd really like to read, but I can't find a copy. I've got The Song of Fade the Gambler, I think. Or I did have. I might have sold it. So it's been disappointing to hear that it's fantastic. Look for the Nuala Peyron sequence. Okay. Blimey, okay, one of the things that I've been, both overjoyed and embarrassed to find is there are so many authors that I've never heard of, that I ought to have. Um, never mind read anything by them. That's, one of the really great things about focusing on this channel and reading more widely in science fiction is just, finding authors that I never heard of. Like, I thought before I did this, I thought I was quite widely read, but no. Um Looking forward to the hardcore feminist SF in your future. Yeah, well, so there's a few in the list of books, as you say, the Pringles and the Broderick and De Filippo list, but I've also got, the women's press science fiction books, which I've been busy collecting. I've got about 15 of those, so far. Um, so, that might be an education. I might find that it melts my brain, after a while, and I might have to give up, but do I have, let's see, do I have any affinity to anything, against no, is the short answer. I don't think I have. It's not as far as science fiction is concerned anyway. Do I have a favorite decade for science fiction? Well, so just because of an age thing, I suppose I've got the softest spot for the '80s, and maybe the '90s, just because the '80s were my formative years of reading. That's where I really, got into it. So, um, and then into the '90s, I suppose that's where before starting this channel, that's where I read most science fiction. Um, and yes, Chris, everyone does have gaps. Well, unless you're Steve, of course, at Outlook Bookseller, he doesn't have any gaps. He's read everything 'cause he's a professional. Discovering booktube has blown my reading scale. Yeah, me too. Um, was there a book that was ruined for you by the Audible performance? That's interesting. Yeah. The narration style, can make a big difference. I think it's done really well. It elevates it beyond the simple reading experience, and it's really good. Um, there was one that, drove me a bit nuts. It was for, um, what's his name? Was it Gareth Powell, who did, Stars and Bones? I think it's somebody Powell anyway, Gareth and Barry, or begins with G anyway. And the narrator for that kept mispronouncing words. It was otherwise okay. It was pretty bland and dry, but she kept mispronouncing things, and she did it repeatedly, different words, and it just drove me insane after a while, and really I found it really jarring. So it can be, the narrator can really fuck it up actually, and make it a really bad experience. And if they're really boring or dry, then it can be, e too easy to tune out. Um, where are we? when you do your TBR on top 10, I get a couple of new authors. Yeah, me too, quite often. Yeah. So I suppose that's I don't know if that's a secret exactly, but I don't in fact, I don't hide it either, but on those top 10 videos, or any of those kind of listicle type videos, I haven't necessarily read them all. It's as much as it's as much a set of book recommendations for me as it is for everyone else. Usually I've read 60 or 70%, but not all of them usually. I like, connecting, hardbacks, but I prefer reading hardbacks over other formats. I like the heft of a hardback. I like the way that they feel in the hand. The bigger ones can be a bit awkward to manage. And there's something quite nice about, reading a really tatty old paperback, that particularly if it's a reread and you've read it before and it's kind of falling apart, that's quite nice. But generally speaking, I probably prefer, to read a hardback, yeah. Do you think lists are dangerous? Well, it's so Leon asks, "Do I think lists are dangerous once you start one, that's it, you have to complete it?" So I am displaying what can only be described as complete tendencies recently. So, yeah, I suppose I don't feel compelled, I actively want to, so I don't feel like I have to. I don't feel like I have to, but I'm probably gonna, if that makes sense. An idea for a future video, famous female SL. Well, I actually did a couple. I did, a couple of videos looking at 20th century authors. Back it was probably a year and a half ago, but they're there. I don't like hardbacks at all. I know, Matt at, Science Fiction Reads in Canada, doesn't really like hardbacks either. He much prefers paperbacks. And it's partly a space thing. They do take up a lot more space, and you obviously can't fit as many on shelves as you can paperbacks. But Sailor Gare, 100 best radium age SF novels. Um, I don't know that I am tempted. So I'm finding what have I read So I'm listening to, Frankenstein, uh, on audiobook at the moment. I mean, I'm finding that a little bit boring, honestly. Um, H.G. Wells, I've listened to a few of those recently on audiobook, have been quite good. But I don't know, I read the Dr. Smith's book, the first of the Lensman books, I think it was, and I thought it was rubbish, like really bad, but badly written, boring story, nothing really happened. I expected to find it like really exciting, and it just wasn't. So I don't know how I'm not tempted by really early sort of proto SF books at this stage yet. But then I haven't really read any either. So I guess Seth, recommend a few for me. Give me five that I really ought to read, based on you have a pretty good feel for the sort of thing that I like now. So give me some recommendations. Do you have tips on reducing old book odor? A couple of eBay purchases are almost unusual. It depends what you mean by old book. I mean, if it's like it's been in a smoking, house with smoking and it stinks of fags, then I can't help you. There were I did, I'm sure I read or saw something about removing the, musty old but I kind of like that old book smell, to be honest with you. I'm not sure why you want to change it. Will I be getting the broken binding edition of Hyperion? Yes, absolutely. I'm waiting for that to arrive, and it should be arriving in May, I think. I blow a bit hot and cold with the broken binding editions. I feel like it's sort of rampant consumerism and whilst they're nice, I don't know how special they'll be in the long run, because they're not limited. So I don't know how much value they'll hold. Not that that's really why I'm buying them, uh, but the few that I've got, I really like, the way that they look. So yes, I'm definitely getting a copy of Hyperion, not least because to find an original first edition hardback is outrageously expensive. I haven't read Skylark books yet. I do have a couple of them, but not all of them. I haven't read those. Have I missed anything? Yeah, Christian, yes, the TBR videos were definitely the one I recorded, May's TBR video. That'll be going out on Tuesday evening. Leon asked, "Do I watch sci-fi?" You assume you mean the channel. No, sure, I don't watch much TV, honestly, partly 'cause I don't have any time. Um, uh, um, I, the things that I have read, so among my favorite TV programs are, Battlestar Galactica, the remake. There are more remakes and, which are awesome, and, I enjoyed The Expanse as well, but those are kind of really about the only things I've watched on TV, really. I've got quite a lot of Blu-rays of science fiction movies, but not t Have I braved reading, classic SF books at work? You mean with the dodgy covers, with the scantily clad ladies? My public reading is probably just on the train, and, I don't know if I have or not, to be honest. I probably wouldn't bother me. I would just read it. I have shown off a few saucy ones on the channel. Um, any plans to tackle, renowned short story and novella anthologies? I really ought to. I've got the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, the Silverberg edited one, which I really ought to read. And I've got the, Ben Bova edited, novellas, Hall of Fame as well. Um, and, so I should read them. Like I said earlier, I've got a ton of short stories in one form or another, and I've read hardly any of them, so I really should. Let's see, how do I see the future of, um, and health? So sci-fi literature, do you feel it's in a good place? I feel it could do with well, I haven't done very many author interviews recently, but every time I have, I've asked them, what they thought of the state of science fiction, and I suppose, it shouldn't be a surprise that they all said that they think it's in a great place, since they're trying to sell books in it, but, I think we're past its peak probably, there are lots more demands on people's attention than there were, back in the day. You know, in the '80s when I was reading a lot of science fiction as a teen, there were 3 TV channels in the UK, well, maybe 4, by that time, in the UK, and, there was none of this kind of catch-up TV or satellite or anything. So they had the 3 national broadcasters, 4 eventually, and that was it. So there wasn't a lot of, and okay, you could go to Blockbusters or wherever and rent a video, but that was kind of it. I think now it's, everyone's got everything on tap. It's just, people don't have much time. I didn't read any. I never did comics. I never did and don't do comics, so I didn't read any Dread. But I did enjoy the Karl Urban film. I thought it was okay, but then I didn't have any baggage with that. I didn't have an opinion about what it should be like. I just enjoyed it as a sort of shooty film. Um, Patreon, so I've got a sort of, so never say never. I don't know what I would do with a Patreon, honestly. Obviously, if people are paying me money, even if it's a small amount a month, they should be getting something from that, and I don't have time to do any more videos than I'm currently doing, and I don't like it when people put their stuff behind a paywall. Moy did that, and Steve's done that now for some of his stuff, and I don't like it. So I don't think I will ever do that. I might, if I could think of a way of adding value, and, that isn't too much of an overhead for me, and that doesn't put broader content out of people's reach, then maybe, but generally speaking, no. What Christopher Priest, book is, up next for me? I will probably read The Prestige next. I haven't got a particular running order for it, but on the basis that I've just got, um, uh, um, a copy of that, then I should probably read that next. Uh, Merch. Um I've never done a read along, in that I've never participated in one, so it's never occurred to me to do one myself. I don't know, if I'll ever do that. Maybe if it if I thought that there was demand for it, maybe I would. But I don't like feeling constrained by what other people are doing, whether it's being a participant or leading one. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Merch. So, a graphic designer reached out to me some months back, probably the middle of last year, and said he'd like to do some art for me that I could use in my videos. I have used it, like, once or twice, but really not very often. And in theory, I could get T-shirts done, mugs and shit, but I haven't. I can't, like, mainly 'cause I can't believe anyone would want would want any of it. I might buy a T-shirt so that I can wear it, whilst I'm recording stuff, but I can't believe anyone would want to buy a T-shirt with anything related to me on it. It doesn't compute. Um, but Ian, if you insist, maybe we'll find the mug. Um, we can still send books. You certainly can, yes. Uh, if people wanna throw money at me, then who am I to refuse? But I do feel like if I was gonna do something organised like Patreon, then it would have to be worthwhile, I think, obviously. Um, so yes, Christian, you can. There's my, Amazon wish list, and if there's something that you particularly want to send to me that isn't on the wish list, then drop me an email and let me know, and either I'll add it to the wish list, or if I think that you're not a serial killer, then, then I'll let you have my address and you can send it me. Um, have I seen Watchmen? I haven't. I've got the graphic novel, but I haven't read it. I've now got 2 graphic novels. Um, um, I'm fascinated by the idea that there are people that want sci-fi scavenger T-shirts, but okay. What's my first reaction to the constant messaging that men have a problem, they do not read fiction? Well, this one does. Um, I don't know if they don't. How do they know? I don't know. Maybe it's true. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. People that read, they can read. It's not hard to just pick up a book and turn the pages. Uh, a favorite book of all time, you say, Mark? Okay, that's Watchmen. Um, Andre wants a sci-fi scavenger T-shirt. Okay. Ever been to any Worldcon? So Whitney was trying to persuade me to go to Glasgow last year, and I couldn't quite be bothered, um, because whilst London to Glasgow is not that far by Texas standards, it's quite a trek, and um, and I didn't fancy the trip, but maybe I should have done since it's not in the UK that often. But no, I've never been to a conference, a con of any kind. Uh, can the same so I use, some plastic film to cover the dust jackets in the hardback books, and you can buy proper, sort of archival quality, covers from people like Brodart, particularly in the US, but they're really expensive. I mean, they're not that expensive, they're a few pounds, um, but compared to the cost of the book, they seem expensive to me. Can you, can the same process be applied to paperback books? Kind of. You can buy, little bags that you can put them in, to keep them nice. I don't bother. I've acquired it, like, sometimes I buy one and it's in a bag, and okay, I don't take it out for the sake of it. To my mind, books are meant to be, on a shelf ready to read, and if they're in a bag, then that just makes it difficult. Leon, don't be ashamed to say you own a Moid T-shirt, Media Desktop T-shirt. I really enjoy, Moid's channel, although it's changed quite a lot Moid, Moid actually, was the first sci-fi YouTube channel that I ever watched, and no one's asked that question, I'm gonna answer it for you. So that's how I started realizing that there was such a thing as YouTube, or BookTube rather. I knew that YouTube existed, and that people talked about science fiction books on YouTube, and there were quite a few of them. And that's why I eventually decided that maybe I could do that as well. Am I dropping in, to the Bloomsbury Book Fair? So that's the one that I went to last year. I don't have any plans to, but I might. I could, um, on, on the 25th, yeah. It's just a bit of a trek. It cost me 40 quid just to get into London, never mind buying any books. I don't know what UUF means. No, alright, okay, I will investigate the possibility of getting some T-shirts done up with my logo on it. Maybe a mug or a bookmark. How about a bookmark? Right, how are we feeling? Are we running out of steam? Is there anyone that has any other burning questions? Have I been to Hay on Wye? I have not been to Hay on Wye, just because it's a bit of a mission to get to. It's not that bad. It would probably be 3 or 4 hours drive to get there from here. Um, where did I get my the first I see, right, okay, yeah, got it marked, thank you. I, the first logo that I have, and those of you that I've not had, and those of you that have been around for a while might remember, was a sort of, vulture perched on a pile of books with a blue background. And that was done using, a Gen AI, art thing. But then, as I said, a guy, whose name escapes me now, I can't remember his name, but a guy in Australia, a graphic artist, reached out to me and said, he would do some work for me, and I could use it on my channel. And so he's the one, we talked about some ideas. It was my idea actually to do a sort of vulture version of the Penguin logo, but he did the work. So that's where that came from. Have I read, Philip Jose Farmer? So actually, Philip Jose Farmer is currently on my naughty step, and he's taking up a lot of space on my shelves, and I'm unsure whether I like his stuff. I've read 2 now. I read To Your Scattered Bodies Go, which is a bit bonkers, but I quite enjoyed it, although it dragged a bit. I found it went on a bit. And then, I've just finished today, actually, Dayworld, which I thought was quite interesting, an interesting premise. Um, uh So those are the 2 that I've got about 20. So I'm gonna do, actually, I'll give you a sneak preview since you're not here. Um, Next week, so not this coming week, the following week, there'll be a video, which is gonna be called something or Pill, um, an extreme shelf audit of Poul Anderson's books. I've now read 2, I had 25, and, I've done a bit of a, cull of his books, based on some tortured logic that I'll explain in the video. And, I'm going to, hi Jack. I'm going to, is it Jack or Jake? I think it's Jack. And I'm going to, maybe it's Jake. Begins with J. I'm gonna do a similar exercise with Philip Jose Farmer, probably Harry Harrison, and, maybe even A. Van Vogt and, something else. Robert Heinlein. I've got a zillion of his books, I need to know. Thank you, Seth, for the, recommendations. Have I read Echopraxia? Yes, so I've read Blindsight and Echopraxia, although it was a few years back. And of the 2, I preferred Echopraxia actually. Um, I probably need to reread both, but I thought Echopraxia was just a bit easier going. So yes, I enjoyed it. Can I get a breakdown of my race? Well, I'm white Anglo-Saxon. Does that answer your question? Oh, that's not what you meant. Um, uh, so, very briefly, I had a 300-kilometer or 200-mile race. My other obsession is endurance running. I also do a bunch of ultra marathons, um, and that's for the last 4 or 5 years. And um, I across the north of England, and I got about 100 kilometers in, and my feet were starting to really hurt, unsurprisingly, perhaps. So I did the difficult bit of the Lake District. And then, after about 115 kilometers, I decided I could face the prospect of doing another 180 kilometers with feet that were giving me jip, so I stopped. End of story, really. Have I read any CJ Cherryh? Short answer, no, but, risk of ruining, um, Tuesday's TBR video, there will be a CJ Cherryh book in my immediate future, and, you can find out which one. Are there any science fiction novels that incorporate endurance running? Well, the one that I can think of, I don't know if it's strictly speaking science fiction, is, Stephen King's one, The Long Walk. I mean, like that. It's a novella really, or a long short story, but there we go. That so it hasn't got endurance running, it's got endurance walking in it. They have to keep walking, and if they stop, they get shot. Do I also have a lot of Piers Anthony? I've got less Piers Anthony than I do Paul Anderson, and no, I haven't read any. I've got actually the one book I've got left on my planned TBR pile for April is a Piers Anthony. I forget what it's called, Temple Dayton, something like that. It's quite a quick one. Um, I will read that and then we'll see. I'm minded actually to just bin off all the Piers Anthonys. I just don't think I'm ever gonna read them, but we'll see how I get on. Everyone keeps telling me he's shit, but then he sold an awful lot of books, so he must have been doing something right. One of Piers Anthony's books that I might want to read is, Split Infinity, but then it's a trilogy, and I haven't got the other 2. They're quite Have I read anything from the Star Wars universe? I, the only one that I read actually was when I was a kid, and it was the Alan Dean Foster, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which George Lucas had asked him to write as a possible, sequel to Star Wars, but which didn't ever become a thing. Well, there was a sequel, but it wasn't that. That was quite good, as I recall. Um, yeah, I haven't read any Star Wars or Star Trek or other I haven't read them basically. So, a short video. Yeah, Piers Anthony seems to elicit, a sort of visceral reaction, so I can't say I'm in a rush. For me, Star Wars is a visual thing. I was a Star Wars child. I went to see the first one when I was about 6 or 7, and the movies have been the thing for me. In fact, actually, I must book it after this is finished. Going to see the 20th anniversary showing of Revenge of the Sith, and I know the prequels are a bit shit compared to the original 3, but they were my kids all watched those movies when they were kids, so that's their era, if you like. So we're gonna see that. As a collector, do I ever buy a book knowing that I'm never gonna read it? No. I so perhaps slightly naively, I assume I'm gonna read all of the books that I've got at some point. I think I worked out that a while back that I had about 12 years of reading on my shelves, that I have, books I haven't yet read, and that at my current rate of 10 or 12 a month, and, um, that's if I don't buy any more, and so it's 12 years and then counting, but I assume, I'm buying it 'cause I think I want to read them mainly. Yeah, you've just mentioned the Thrawn trilogy. I've heard that that's good, the first one anyway, I don't know about the second one. The topic of, authors that wrote books that are lauded, but then turned out to be dodgy characters in their own right. Orson Scott Card's an example. David Eddings, for example, is another one. Marion Zimmer Bradley, Neil Gaiman, obviously more recently, and there are others. So I generally try to separate the art from the artist, um, but 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 then people start berating you if you even kind of sniff a book by one of these people. Um, I've never been to a book signing, so all my signed books are ones that I've bought, either deliberately or accidentally. I do have a Battlestar Galactica. Um, I don't know if it's an adaptation of the series or the movie. I think it might be the movie. Never read it though. Um, uh, um Yes, lots of he's everywhere, Neil Gaiman actually. I bet there's a lot of publishers thinking, "Oh, bloody hell, I wish we could get rid of that." I need to stop buying. Um, uh, yeah. So, when I, so so I forgot to look. Well, you did say what it was with Jack. Jake, can't remember. Let's have a look. Jack or Jake at Sci-Fi Finds. There are, an awful lot of, book hauls out there. When I first started the channel, I was doing book hauls every 10 days or 2 weeks because I was buying so many books, and, they were getting a bit into, but I don't buy books simply to do book hauls, anymore. I think I probably did at one point, but not anymore. I'm buying them because I want them in my collection, and then sharing them on a book haul is incidental. Um, what do you hope will happen to your collection when you leave this mortal coil? That's a great question. I'm kind of probably put my wife or children, when it comes to it, in touch with a good dealer beforehand. That's probably what will happen. Uh, how many pages do I manage to read in a normal day? I don't know. I don't. Uh, well, let me think. That's a good question. It depends. A shorter. Let's do it in terms of books. A shorter book, 150, 200 pages, I can do in a day, and an hour and a half in the morning, and then a bit at lunchtime, and then a bit after work. Um, that's my gauge. Is I would typically want to burn through a book of 150 to 200 pages in a day, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And if I'm struggling a bit to get through it because it's not quite gelling, then it can take a while, and that's usually a sign that I really ought to do an effort. David Eddings, I still have it. I mean, I didn't go beyond the Malorian. I didn't read any of the later ones. I really loved the Belgariad when I was a kid, and in fact, I went through a nostalgia period where I was buying up, editions of the Eddings books for the Belgariad and the Malorian, but I'm actually in the process of selling them because they're taking up space I can't afford. Um, do I have a book reading technique? My bad habit with paperbacks, to avoid damaging them, is to hold them at the bottom, and that puts quite a lot of strain on the bottom of the spine, and that could be damaging. Um, uh, um, I lost my thread there. The trick to it, I think, as far as I can tell, is to hold it with both hands and to just kind of bend the pages and not the spine, and just tilt it one side to the other so you can read it. That's kind of how I do it. But inevitably, you do get a bit of creasing, and that's just the way that it goes. Um, have I ever interacted with the likes of Moid and Bookbuild? Matt, no, only to tell me off because I was trying to promote a video on a channel on his Discord that I shouldn't. He was perfectly pleasant about it. And then Moid, when I first started my channel, he was quite free with advice, um, and we chatted for a while on DMs on his Discord. But then he put his Discord behind a paywall, and so that was the end of that. So no, I haven't recently. Bend the page is not the spine exactly. Um, uh, Lasethia. I think it's because of my videos that Whitney has put Colour of Distance on her Goodreads. Maybe. I don't know if she's got a copy or not. Um, it's actually really hard to find because it didn't have a big print run. But, uh, um, yeah, hopefully she'll get a copy. Um, Matt at Bookwood has a particular style of his videos. He's got, it so I would say he's not really reviewing books, he's doing a critical review. He's not a reviewer, he's a critic, and there's a particular mentality for that, and, uh, maybe it has some airs and graces that go with it, I don't know. Do I typically respond to every comment? Actually, yes, is the short answer. as I often say in my weekly update, in the comment review session, the comments is one of my favourite things about it. And I did wonder when I first started whether I would be able to keep up with it. But generally speaking, I try to respond to every comment. I don't maybe I miss one every now and again. Certainly the first comment that people, that people make, I don't always get to the replies, or if other people are replying to other people's comments, then I don't reply to those. But yeah, generally speaking, I do try, Jack, or Jake, Jack or Jake. And, uh, um but so yes, whether if the channel continues to grow and we get more and more comments, I don't know if I'll be able to continue to that. But I think I will try. That's my fan. Am I a sports fan? No, not really, is the short answer. Both my boys are crazy about football, as we call it over here, and soccer, as the Yanks insist on calling it. But yeah, they're both football and golf crazy actually. But no, I'm not really. Um, bu bu oh, thank you for doing that. That's great. Uh, and maybe I will set up my own Discord as well. Um, and I think you're right, Tufty, about the because if you're just putting a comment in on a video and there's no reply, then why would you do that again? There's no payback. There's no uh, uh, there's no value from doing it. So I think that back and forth is great, and one of the reasons why I don't know if I consciously did it. I consciously thought of it as a reason for starting the channel, but certainly a reason for continuing it. So yeah, I do like to have an exchange with the comments. Do I ever get mean-spirited comments? Thank you, Jack. I thought you said Jack, but I couldn't find the original comment. Do I ever get so rarely is the honest truth. As I said, in my weekly update this week, generally speaking, the comments on my videos are supportive, encouraging, interesting, and very occasionally I get someone who's just having a bad head on something. Not one of the regulars. Usually, it's someone that's coming out of the blue. And it's often where one of my videos has been shared more widely than it normally has. So it's not my typical audience. If that makes sense. And I'll get someone that throws their toys out of the pram, or gives a slightly short, or and I usually just reply, with a thanks for watching, and I don't engage. Sometimes I do. Do I secretly long? I will know I've made it if Pulp Morton does a parody piss take video of me. Yeah, I don't know if he will or not. I did watch his one the other day of uh, poking fun at Steve, which I confess I did find quite funny. His accent was a bit off, but I enjoyed the premise. Thought it was good. Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, the likes of Moid and Matt that could have like 50,000 subscribers. They probably get oodles of comments, and it would be. But even then, I think they do often reply. I think in the first 24 hours of the video's out and you're getting comments, then it's easier. But I imagine it does get a snowball effect, and get quite difficult to manage. But whilst I am, then then I will. I think one of you said that I usually respond quite quickly, and because it's so easy to do on the phone, you can bash out an answer quite quickly. But I do get told off from time to time by my wife, who says, "Do it later. It can wait." Um, what's the most that I've ever spent on a book, and what was it? Well, technically, the most I've spent, most that's well, it was a birthday present, technically speaking. The most that has been spent on the book in my collection, put it that way, was I think it was about £85, which is for the Prestige, the Christopher Priest book, as a recent acquisition. There are a bunch more that I've got that are worth way more than I spent on them. I did a video on that a while back. And do I find my do I find my threshold for what's a reasonable price? It absolutely does. Yes, keep creeping up. It's I guess, a virtuous cycle in that the reason that I feel able to spend more on books these days is because I've got I start the month with a decent amount of credit from doing the YouTube channel, partly or mostly because of, YouTube revenue, which isn't a lot of money, but it's a worthwhile amount these days, and, that offsets my, I don't think there's anyone in the window. What are you talking about? Um, yeah, exactly. Is there a book that everybody raves about that you just don't get? That's a good question. Mm. That's a great question. Um, so it's not science fiction, but, what's his name? Brendan Sanderson. Really boring. I'll say no more. So Oxfam's a charity, and, they have, um, uh, in every town in the UK, pretty much there'll be an Oxfam shop. Most of them have other stuff too and just have a few shelves of books, then there might be, 1 or 2, science fiction books in there, and then the bigger towns usually have an Oxfam bookshop as well, and so the books that their smaller shops will never sell, which usually includes science fiction, fantasy, and they usually have, several shelves worth of science fiction books, and fantasy, and depending on the one you go to, they can be more expensive. If you go to an Oxfam bookshop in the centre of London, then the books are more expensive. My local ones, paperbacks are typically priced at 199 or 250, and uh, um, and the hardbacks can be 250 or 299. Depends really. It depends who's doing the pricing. Really, it's a bit random. You don't. I mean, you maybe don't have many thrift stores, as you would call them, but you do have a lot of physical bookshops that do bargain books, like Half Price Books and other places like that, which don't exist in this country, really. You should hook us up with an Oxfam trip video. Well, I do record them sometimes, but I haven't done recently because I haven't found anything, and, it's not very good. Um, but not $2, £2. So and it would be more like £3 really, or 3.99 sometimes. So I don't know, it's like $4 or $5, something like that, maybe a little bit less. That's in a charity shop, and in some charity shops, you can pay £1 or £2 for a hardback, but then there aren't any science fiction, so it's no good. Let's see, Douglas, your channel makes me consistently want to read books. Good, I guess that's the point. Um, do you write then read? So I guess, Douglas, what you're really asking is, do I use a script? Yes, I do. Mainly because if I don't, there are some I don't script a book haul, obviously I'm not scripting this, but if I'm doing, and I don't script the TBRs or anything that's kinda organised where it's a list video or top 10 or something like that, then yes, I write a script. Just because if I don't, it's an unholy mess. I'm hesitating all over the place, and I don't know what I'm gonna say, and, it's not good TV, and, it's a pain in the arse to edit, so yes, I use a script. They're not always good scripts, but, um, that's what I do. You're welcome, Jack. I used to do a thing on the channel where I would, on the weekly update, where I would have a little "What have I been watching?" segment, and I felt like I was saying the same things week in, week out, so I stopped doing it. Maybe I need to refresh that. And Matthew, you're right, absolutely, time spent on script upfront, and it's definitely time saved in the edit, and I think the videos are probably better, and I've definitely got more, um, I think anyway, I've got better at writing scripts as well, but have I ever popped into Halcyon Book? No, I bought a few books from them online, but I've never actually been in. Um, I really only go over to that part of London to visit my mother who lives in Alton, which isn't very far away, but if I'm going there, I'm going to visit her, not to go to a bookshop, sadly. I just got home. What did I miss? You missed everything. You'll have to watch the video when I put it up. Why are we talking about backside scrubbers? All right, Andre, thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Good evening. All right, Tufters, have a good evening. See you later. Oh, Christian, that video makes me cringe now. I had all sorts of highfalutin ideas, in the early days, which I was, writing checks that my capabilities couldn't cash. I think, yes, there was a section, a video of me dressed as a priest. I was doing a book, like a confession, like a having a book problem, I think. Um, Favorite SF cover artist? I like, Jim Burns, I like Chris Foss, I like, Michael Whelan, um, those are probably the top 3. I used to go to Greenwich Market a lot when I was a kid. Um, Good morning, to Melbourne, Australia. I wasn't expecting anyone from that part of the world actually, but I guess it would be. I don't know, what's the time there now? Must be, what, 7:30, 8:30 in the morning, something like that? Not too uncivilized. 6:30, okay, that's quite uncivilized. Well done. Yeah, what concept or idea, whatever, I'm sick of seeing in SF and never want to read another book of? Gosh, yeah, robots taking over is getting a bit boring. There's quite a lot of that. Um, I suppose, identity politics for the sake of identity politics. There's a lot of that in books at the moment, which is getting a bit old. I just assume that that will go out of fashion. I'm not the concept, but the idea of banging on about it in books. When it's done well, it's really good. I don't have a problem with it at all, but it can be, how many um, hours a week do I spend? My wife will tell you too fucking much. Quite a lot. It depends on the video. Some of them are fairly low effort, like a book will there's no prep for it really other than making a pile of books, and it's not too difficult to edit. But anything, that requires, a script, it has to be researched. I have to think about what I'm gonna say, I have to write it down, then, I have to record it, then I have to edit it, which can take ages, particularly if it's got a lot of extra stuff with it, more images or other fancy bits and pieces, text or what have you. And then you've got to produce or render the video, turn it into an MP4 that I can actually load to YouTube, and then you've got to load it to YouTube. So it can take ages. And so for a kind of high effort video, I would say probably, even if it's only like a 15-minute video, I would say it takes, hours and hours on top of that. I dread to think how long it takes actually, but a lot. Um, Let me see. In your opinion, who's the greatest SF author ever, and why is it John Wyndham? I don't know that he's the greatest ever. I mean, I genuinely do like him, and Day of the Triffids and the Chrysalids are amongst probably my favourite books, just because I read them in my formative years, so I have a soft spot for them. But I don't know, that it's necessarily. Time Travel's a pretty hoary one at this stage, and I was dressed well. Dressed as a priest is a strong, statement. I had a black, roll neck top on. I'd sellotaped, scotch taped a piece of white card to the front so that it looked like a dog collar, and I had, an old black beret that I had, so it looked a bit like a priest's hat. But that but that's all. Jack Chalker, I've read, Midnight at the Well of Souls, is it? I read that, and there are, like, 5 of them. That's the only one I read. It was a bit bonkers. Um but I haven't read any more. Any authors that come to mind that you were convinced you would hate, but ended up loving the work in the end? If I was convinced I was gonna hate it, why would I read it in the first place? Not that I can think of. Did I grow up reading Doctor Who books? No. Is the short answer. I watched the show, but I didn't read it. Kraken, I didn't enjoy as much as Triffids. It was, sort of mid-table for me. I might so okay, yeah, but I didn't know I was gonna hate it beforehand. That's my bad. I read it innocently and then hated it. Do you think a reread of a book read when very young is almost guaranteed to be a disappointment? Yeah, so I read, um yes and no. So I think books that were of their time that you read when you were a kid can be a bit disappointing. I've reread Rendezvous with Rama recently, for example, that I thought was great when I was in my teens, but I thought it was really boring, when I read it last year. But on the other hand, Caves of Steel by Asimov, which I enjoyed those robots books when I was a kid. I've read in the last number of months and thought it was great. I thought it stood up really well. So it's a mixed bag, and, I'm a bit worried about reading too much, old stuff. Dune is another one I really enjoyed when I was a kid, and I've reread a number of times. I read that fairly recently and thought it was still fantastic. So, have I heard of Robin, Norn? No, is the short answer. Um, I don't know. Give us a couple of so I haven't read so I'm not so translated SF, that's an idea for a themed video actually, that I have somewhere in the background. So the only ones I'm aware of reading are Solaris, which I didn't really like, and, but more recently, the Carpet Maker by Andreas Eschbach, I thought was great, and that's translated from German. Really good translation, actually. Doctor Dolittle. Oh, yes, Three Body Problem, thank you, yes, good one. I have read that, and I thought it was okay. You know, I didn't not like it. It wasn't my favourite anything. I didn't hate it either. I guess you don't like it. Roadside Picnic, true, yes, that's translated, and that one I thought was okay. My experiences with the Strugatskys have been mixed. I tried to read Hard to Be a God, a number of months ago, and I DNF'd it. It didn't work for me at all. Top social SF reads. Well, uh, I, I've just read, a Chris Beckett book, Marcher, which I think really feeds off of his background as a social worker. So that's the one that comes to mind. Um, Schweblin, I've got Little Eyes. I haven't read it yet. Yeah, I want to. I haven't read it yet. Top social SF reads that come to mind. I don't know. You tell me. What are some that you would think of as being good that I ought to read? I don't know that I can identify the category really. I suppose that's my real problem there. I've got a bunch of Strugatsky books that I may never read. Current authors that I think will be regarded as legends in the future. Um, I think Adam Roberts, will have a bit of a legacy. I think, his books are mostly inventive and interesting. That's off the top of my head. So, author interviews, they do get low views, relatively speaking. I mean, I'm generally happy, grudgingly perhaps, if any of my videos get over 1,000 views, that's great, and, only one or two of the interviews the interview I did with Christopher Rocchio, did okay, and also the Adam Roberts one after a while did okay as well, probably because he retweeted the link. But, um, I really enjoyed doing them. I get a kick out of, it's only because I'm doing this YouTube channel that I have even a sniff of, interviewing, these guys, so I'm happy to do it, and I enjoy talking to them. Um, uh, M.R. Carey, who wrote, Girl with All the Gifts. That's Mike Carey, and more recently, Parallel Worlds, but the name of which I forget. I really enjoyed. He did say that he would do have a chat, but I never got around to contacting him, so I could spin that one up. And there's a book by Casper. Uh, what's his name? Begins with G. That's coming out in July. He's going to come on, which may reveal a little secret when he does. Um, so yeah, I am. So those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. Um, so I enjoy doing them, but they actually take quite a long time to edit. Actually. Oh yeah, okay. I see what you mean. Yes, yes, I couldn't possibly comment. Tom Toner would be good, and, I have been chatting to Tom actually on Blue Sky, so that might well happen actually. Partly because of the, Ujima Flip Valentine trilogy I've been wading my way through. I've still got to read the 3rd one, but also there's a new book coming out, kind of. Um, Priest Leon says, "Priest in Space, The Sparrow, mad premise for a book. Any others you think shouldn't work but do?" Ooh, I quite enjoyed The Sparrow. I know it gets a lot of hate, but I quite enjoyed it, I think. It was a bit long-winded maybe. D no, I'm stumped. Shouldn't work but do. No, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm a bit tired now, to be honest, but yeah. The pseudonymous one, yeah, that's the logic. Well, it was mainly because, um, the others didn't sell that well, is the essential logic to it. So his publishers thought that the distributors might respond better to a new name. That's what it basically boils down to. So I gather. So going back to iSound Info, yeah, the disc list I've read, 1984, I have read, but not for ages. I don't actually have possess a copy at the moment. Ministry for the Future, I enjoyed. Now, I need to read more Ursula Le Guin, actually. I've got a bunch, and, The Kind of Darkness is staring at me, accusing me. I haven't read that. Lathe of Heaven, too. I'd really like to read. Right, any more for any more? Fa of f Favorite SF movie? Recently, I think it's Interstellar. I've seen that a bunch of times. My youngest daughter is a huge fan of it as well, so we quite often, have an afternoon on the sofa watching it, and we went to see it when it was, reissued at the cinema for its 10th anniversary. I've been to see it on IMAX a couple of times, so that's probably my favorite one recently. But I'm a sucker for an SF movie generally, but that's probably my favorite. Pilgrims, yes, Christian. I've heard that's good. I forget his name now, the author, but, it did sound, certainly he was, he was quite, sure to be to make sure I understood that he thought it was, really good, but, and it did sound kinda interesting. Latin speaking, aliens, I believe. Um, yeah, Gattaca I watched, recently actually, or I rewatched it. I've seen it before. Minority Report I haven't seen for ages. AI books is getting a bit old, but AI in general is getting old, isn't it? Um, I would lump that in with robot apocalypses. I think, that our electronic overlords taking over has been done to death, I think. 2 or 3 books that I love, but few seem to have ever heard of. Blimey. Well, so the ones, I'll give you a silly example. Of Peter F. Hamilton's first books, the Greg Mandel trilogy, don't get anywhere near the attention that his more famous space operas get. I really love those. And I've got some, really fantastically cheesy copies, which are US editions, which have got very, very cheesy covers, which I really love. And but I haven't read it for ages, so I must give it a reread. That's probably the 3 that pop to mind. I would love talking to Peter F. Hamilton, I would love to see someone make a movie based on one of his books, but they're so fucking fat that I don't know that you could fit it into a movie. You could make a TV show of it though. I mean, it would be a very expensive one to make, I would think, but, certainly could. I would love to see a TV show of the Commonwealth series. That would be great. Favorite contemporary women SF authors? Okay, good question. There are a bunch. Emma Newman, I really like Claire North in particular. Actually, Claire North got a space opera book, which I'm super excited about. That's not coming out until about November in the UK, but that I will absolutely that'd be an automatic buy for me. Um, those guys I really like. Um, I'm really enjoying Bethany Jacobs recently with These Burning Stars and Ambitious Wells is another one to come. I think those have been great. Um, those are the three that I can think of. Thanks, Christine. Goodbye. Which of my list of Shane's authors do I most want to get to? I forget who I did. Let me think. Uh, so there are a lot of authors who not that I've read none of, but I haven't read enough of. So Ursula Le Guin is one. Kurt Vonnegut maybe. Um, I can't think of who's even on it. I'm sure there are a bunch. Um, yeah, Claire North is good. I she has the space opera one will be a bit different, I think, but she, generally speaking, has a knack of taking normal life in contemporary setting and just kind of turning a dial a little bit and changing the rules a bit. Um, if you are really loving a humorous SF book, what would most cause that, do you think? I wouldn't be really loving a humorous SF book. I generally speaking don't like humor and SF together. It's not a good combination. Um, I don't get Shadow of the Torture. So I've read the Book of the New Sun, um, uh, um, and I did find it a bit hard going, but I did enjoy it kind of. I couldn't tell you much about it now. I need to reread it a bunch of time ago. And I hear that it rewards at least one reread, probably several, and there are layers of meaning that become clear as you reread it. But that sounds like an awful lot of hard work. Um, that's why I DNF Dahlgren. What? Because it was hard work? Yeah, I'm not gonna rush to read, First 15 Lives is excellent, the other one of hers that I read is, The End of the Day, which I thought was great, and I've got a bunch more that I haven't yet read, but I think it's great. I appreciate this is an SF channel, but are you? Then nothing, so I don't know what the rest of that question is. First 15 Lives, I was thinking about it months afterwards. It really, 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 uh, um, messed with my head, really made me think, and, especially one that I'd really like to read. I am, apparently. I don't know what I am, but apparently I am. Yeah, so two shoes, your question didn't quite complete there, so we we don't know. To prove it, well, I'm right here. I think, therefore I am. So I have, in my day, read quite a bit of fantasy, um, but this is a channel focused on science fiction, so I very rarely, um, read fantasy these days. The closest I come to it these days is Rocchio's, fuck is it called? Sun Eater series, which is like fantasy in space really. I did not complete the ultramarathon. I got over a third of the way through it and then, had to retire, partly 'cause I had a bit of a hissy fit, but also because my feet were really sore. I had some nasty blisters. The thought of doing another 120 miles and them didn't appeal at all at that stage, so I jacked it in. Sword and sorcery, I don't like at all, but kind of epic fantasy, the likes of Raymond Feist back in the day. I've read, Tad Williams, I really like, Lord of the Rings, obviously, but I haven't really Brendan Sanderson, I tried to read a bit of, um, but I got bogged in Stormlight Archive. I read the first one and thought it was pretty good. Quite enjoyed the second one. The third one thought was bit, mm. And the fourth one I DNF'd halfway through because I just thought it was really boring. I won't be in fact, I've sold them, so they've gone now. Yes, thank you. 115K on the hilliest bit of this not a small thing. But annoyingly, all my friends that were doing it finished, so I had to put up with them being successful. I have not read Otherland. I've got all 4 of them on the shelves, but I haven't read them. So that's the end of that conversation. Of the Tad Williams ones that I've read of his, the, Memory, Sorrow and Thorn, which I love. I've read that a few times. My copies of that are extremely worn out because I read them several times. And then his more recent follow-up to that, I read the first 2. I've got the 3rd one, I haven't read it yet, and I think there's a 4th one, as well, which I don't even have, never mind read it. Collabs, I mentioned it's not I don't know if it's a collaboration exactly, 'cause they're not co-writing, but, the, Aftermath series between, Boojum Flip, Dave Roberts, no, Adam Roberts and Dave Hutchinson. They've alternated. I've really enjoyed. Niven and Pennell probably is an obvious one. I think, The Masters of Disaster. I really love it. I mean, they're not terribly demanding, but fun books. I kind of so I really loved first the sort of Rift War series, the first 3, Magician and so on, through to Darkness and Stephanon, and then I really enjoyed the collab he did with Jenny, Wirtz, the, Empire books. In fact, I probably like those more than the Magician ones, but I didn't read anything on that. Who are the contemporary authors that are so an automatic buy? So Adam Roberts, for sure. I would have said, Peter Hamilton, but I haven't, so I haven't got Exodus, which and I've heard that it's pretty good. Sorry about that, one of my kids came in. Um, yes, so I would have said, Peter Hamilton, but well, I haven't actually got Exodus, but, yeah, I've heard that it's good. In fact, I almost snagged a broken binding edition of it on eBay, but then I forgot to put a bid in, and it actually it went for like £16.50 or something. I really should have bought one. Yeah, yes, so, let's think. Alistair Reynolds I probably would buy, Tchaikovsky I probably will buy anything he does, although he is a bit hit and miss for me, but this is all pretty good anyway. Um, Chris Beckett I probably automatically buy. Emma Newman, she's got a new book out, which is fantasy, but she promised me that she will write more science fiction one day. The Empire books are really good, actually. I'm due a reread. I haven't read them for a long time. Surely, you must surely have read Football and Lucifer's Hammer and The Mote in God's Eye. You must have read those, surely, right? Charles Stross, yeah. I, I've got a little corner of Charles Stross books. I've read a couple of the Laundry Files books, but I don't obsess about those. I prefer his science fiction. And, I know he's working on a couple of books, one of which is well, at least one of which is a space opera, so I'll absolutely be buying that when it comes out. Aaliyah Wheatley. So what's she written? I don't know that author. Well, um, yeah, I do like The End of the World. I do, have, quite a lot of, um, apocalyptic type books, that I've quite enjoyed. Tom McCarthy, I would say, is kind of slipstream. It's not really SF, but it's maybe got a tinge of SF. Yeah. So you'll need to hit me up with some Elijah Wheatley recommendations. All right, Chris, thank you. I need to, head to bed myself fairly soon. Right, let's actually call it there, as we've been on for almost 2 hours, and despite my dicking about at the beginning. Um, well, this has been fun, so thank you to everyone that's, attended. I really appreciate all the questions and the chat, although the chat's a bit one way, obviously, 'cause only, only you can only see me. Maybe we'll do one of these, where we try to have everyone on a, like a StreamYard, call or something like that. Anyway, thanks everyone. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.